Welcome to the news briefing for the new roadmap for immigration reform in the news administration.
Thank you. My name is Dan Stein, and I am president of the Federation for American Immigration Reform. Thank you all very much for coming. And with me today is Julie Kirshner, FAIR's executive director. Also on the phone from Seattle is Ira Millman, who is FAIR's media director and has been with the organization like me for several decades, and he's been into the polling data as well, and we'll be discussing that a bit later. Again, thank you for coming. These are very interesting and exciting times here in Washington. As everyone I think knows, there have been tremendous changes and are tremendous changes afoot politically and certainly within the political environment. I think it's very important to recognize that there are a variety of factors operating in our society that are leading to a great deal of public insecurity right now. We are witnessing wild swings in the market, certainly that led up to the current financial collapse. Generally among the American people is a sense of instability, precariousness, certainly consumer confidence, and a sense the U.S. is headed in the wrong direction relates to an awful lot of why we saw this massive rejection of the Bush administration's policies in the prior election. I think Americans generally are looking for credibility. Certainly, I think credibility is the operative word in people's minds now about the American political and economic system. Can we restore credibility to financing and the free market system? Can we restore credibility to a political system? Can we restore credibility to the United States and its image abroad? Certainly, within the realm of immigration policy, there's no doubt about it that credibility has been an operative word. Taking us back to the 1995 commission reports led by the esteemed Barbara Jordan, that main report issued by that commission was restoring credibility to the immigration system. Getting credibility back to the rule of law, the way in which we select immigrants, the way in which the system functions and operates, has been a hallmark of not only what that commission has tried to do, but also what FAIR has tried to advocate over the years, certainly since that report was issued. Like most of American politics, there has been a deteriorating tone in the immigration debate, in our view. There's been a polarization brought about in large part, in our view, for perhaps different reasons than some of our political opponents might view it, but in part because there has been an abandonment of that need to restore credibility, that credibility-enhancing set of factors or recommendations that were such a core part of the Jordan Commission recommendations. The post-9/11 political environment enhanced the notion that credibility had to be reasserted in document security, border security, interior enforcement, that people who don't play by the rules should not be allowed to play the game. The Kennedy-McCain amnesty that was defeated roundly as a result of vocal public opposition last year was partly a response to the fact that what is now called comprehensive immigration reform by our opponents, and I think now by many people in the incoming administration, in fact is not a credibility-enhancing measure. People rejected that bill because it was not a credibility-enhancing measure, in part because its cornerstone appeared to be an amnesty, also known as a pathway to citizenship. Amnesty does not equal enhancing national security in the minds of the American people. The only way in which the path to citizenship amnesty concept got onto the agenda originally was it was sold as a security enhancement proposal initiative, and that it would enhance our ability to know who is in the country and who would not. In the last 12 months, there has been an effort to make the amnesty the cornerstone of immigration reform, and of course, in fact, that's exactly opposite of what we feel would be appropriate and what we think is reflected in public opinion as actually being in the national interest. For those who are looking for a change in the tenor of the public debate, the continued emphasis of rewarding people who have broken the law over getting the things that are needed to be done is not likely to actually tone down the rhetoric, but rather would enhance it. Our opposition's response to public unwillingness to accept a mass amnesty has been to attack every person and organization who's working on this side of the issue, and they have been doing that aggressively for the last 12 months. And now in the course of the election, they are trying to suggest that there is an urgency to passing a mass amnesty. They have framed and couched their arguments in ways which are somewhat different from the traditional arguments on the merits about mass immigration. Traditionally, their arguments were that they were needed because we needed low-cost labor, we need to bid down the cost of labor in order to make American workers, employers more competitive. They made economic arguments. Now the arguments they're making are essentially akin to political intimidation. They're trying to make the argument that if Republicans in particular support strong, robust border enforcement and immigration controls, that the growing, quote, Hispanic political juggernaut will vote them out of office. And in our view, these attacks are polarizing and only lead to an escalating public bitterness for everyone else in the country, because, what is the purpose of supporting mass immigration if, as some of the folks on the other side claim, the result is going to be that the recently arrived immigrants themselves are essentially dominating the political system in such a way that people who support an opposing point of view, less immigration, better control, would be voted out of office. So in fact, in our view, it's not only a polarizing position, but it's also not accurate. In fact, immigration was not, as you all know, a major the topic of this debate. It is a failure of our political system, our two-party dominated special interest big money system, that the major candidates can actually decide, essentially by joint agreement, not to discuss an issue and get away with it the last 7-8 months of a campaign. Arguably, immigration is one of the topics that is of most importance to the American people. We see in areas of, for example, the housing crisis, where immigration has played an important role. Organizations which work very hard to encourage Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac to get into financing mortgages for people who didn't even have the right to work in this country, didn't even have the right to be in this country. The same political interest that argued that we should allow people to work in this country who lacked work authorization, retroactively, for example, apply various tax benefits to people who'd worked illegally in this country. This effort to push banks into underwriting mortgages that were essentially based on faulty financial analysis. Why do you want to give a mortgage to someone who doesn't have a lawful income in this country? And yet, many of those same people now seem to be getting rewarded in this administration with political appointments. So I don't think that the issue is going to go away. I think probably the most important thing we can take from this discussion today is that all of the factors that have been driving the immigration policy debate for the last 20 years, a sense of economic insecurity, a lack of understanding of where the country is going, an immigration program that, frankly, the country cannot afford, all these factors are going to be driven further and further up in public consciousness in the next 24 months. There's no doubt about it. The so-called low-cost labor analysis that has driven employers to push for mass immigration, to defend illegal immigration, is coming home to roost. The only time that the current immigration program has been affordable, at least superficially, has been during these economic bubbles from 1996 to 2000, and over the past several years where we appeared to be in a housing boom that caused tremendous labor demand in construction. During the normal periods of responsible economic growth, and obviously during recession periods, it becomes painfully apparent that immigration in the way we're practicing it now is not an affordable construct, not an affordable strategy for the long term. The levels are too high, the skill levels are too low. It doesn't make sense that the policies put in place since 1965 need to be reformed. And this takes us again back to some of the cornerstone recommendations of the Jordan Commission, which said that in order to restore credibility, we had to eliminate some of the chain migration factors in the family preference categories.